Aspinall versus Gane. Yeah, that one. It really showed how dependent the UFC has become on storytelling to hold its world together. It was meant to define the future of the heavyweight division. Two technical standouts meeting to decide who truly represents this new era. And then, it just ended. No resolution, no payoff. That moment, that confusion, it revealed something bigger than the result itself. Without a story to follow, MMA almost forgets how to make sense of its own chaos. The UFC doesn't just sell individual fights, it sells continuation. Every major matchup is framed as a step towards something else. A title shot, a comeback, a fall, a changing of eras. That forward motion is what keeps people following week to week, even across cards that aren't strong on paper. It gives meaning to routine content. The company leans on this constantly. Embedded episodes build identity, press conferences build conflict, desk segments build stakes. None of that is random. It's infrastructure. And it only works if, after the cage door closes, there's something clean to declare. Here's the guy. Here's the path. When the result doesn't deliver that, the promotional rhythm breaks. There's no package to cut, no number one contender push, no revenge angle to sell in the post-fight cycle. The schedule keeps moving, but without a hook to carry forward. That loss of continuity is exactly what happened with Aspinall versus Gane. The match was set up as a hinge. After it, the UFC could point and say, this is where heavyweight is going. Without that hinge, heavyweight is temporarily unframed. When a fight like this ends with, well, nothing, the division kind of loses its center. You know? Going in, heavyweight was built around one idea. Aspinall and Gane, they're the standard. Everyone else was orbiting that. And then suddenly, it's gone. The UFC can't push one as the guy, can't really drop the other down a tier, can't even pretend this was part of some bigger arc because, honestly, nothing actually happened. We've seen what that does before. When John Jones got pulled from UFC 200, light heavyweight didn't just lose a main event. It lost that whole Jones is back, everything resets now feeling the UFC had been building for months. They had to rebuild the story from scratch, like completely. Heavyweight's in that same spot now. The fight that was supposed to define the path forward didn't define anything. And when there's no path, no momentum to follow, the division just kind of hangs there, waiting for someone to give it meaning again. We've seen the arc snap before. Silva versus Weidman 2 was supposed to answer a simple question. Was Weidman really the new king, or did Silva just get caught? Instead, Silva's leg broke and the rivalry ended without resolution. The UFC didn't leave that open. It called it the end of the Silva era. Not because that was completely true, but because the division needed a finished chapter to move on. Same with Khabib versus Ferguson. That fight was sold for years as the matchup at lightweight. When it finally collapsed for good, the UFC just moved straight to Khabib versus whoever's next, because the division couldn't sit in uncertainty. That's the pattern. When a story can't end naturally, the UFC forces one, just so the weight class doesn't drift. Aspinall versus Gane is tougher. There's no clean era is over moment like Silva, no cursed rivalry to swap out like Khabib Ferguson. There's no ending to spin, no heat to recycle. Just a hole. That hole, that's what the UFC actually fears. Not losing stars. Stars come back. Not injuries. Those can be packaged, spun, given shape. The real risk is the pause. That stretch of silence when there's nothing to say. A pause is dangerous because attention has to land somewhere, and if you don't control where it lands, it drifts. And drifting attention, that's the one thing the UFC never wants. Normally, the promotion guides the audience with quick, easy anchors. This guy's next. This rivalry isn't done. This division just changed. It tells fans what to feel and where to look next. But with Aspinall versus Gane, those lines didn't fit. The company couldn't pretend there was a new blueprint for heavyweight because heavyweight didn't actually move. That's what unfinished stories really mean in this sport. Not embarrassment, but a loss of control. When the frame drops, the whole thing stops feeling like progress and starts feeling like disconnected moments, just floating there. Both fighters will fight again, and yeah, the UFC will eventually assign a direction to heavyweight. That part's routine. What doesn't fade, though, is what this moment showed. The sport only feels stable when there's a story tied to the result. Take that story away, even once, and suddenly everything around it hesitates. The matchup plans, the way the division's sold, even how fans talk about who matters next. It all just slows down. That's what Aspinall versus Gane really left behind. Under the production, under all the talk of eras and futures, MMA is still just a collection of unstable moments. The order only appears after the fact. We build it ourselves. Without that layer, all you're left with is a pause, a division waiting, and everyone else trying to decide what it meant.